How do we have joy anyway, despite all of our circumstances? That's what we're going to be addressing today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager. Flourish-Meant is sponsored by Access More. Today, I have a beautiful and precious guest with me. She is a keynote speaker, joy coach, and the author of Messy Joy: How Joy Can Begin Before Your Difficulties End. And that actually just went to #1 on Amazon's new releases in Christian self-help. So that is a huge accomplishment. This guest is Robin Shear. Welcome, Robin. I am so excited to see how you can share with us how to have joy anyway.
Hi, Tina. Gosh, I'm so happy to be here with you today. I really look forward to this.
And so do I. I would love for you to share with the audience what prompted your heart to talk about joy. Of all the topics you could have chosen, why is this one close to your heart? And why do you think God called you to focus on this topic?
I think that he called me to focus on the subject of joy because he helped me to just see it at work in so many different situations. I didn't grow up wanting to be a joy coach. I'd never heard of that before, but I did want to do something that was helpful. And so I was a registered dietitian for a number of years. I worked with youth and youth ministry. I served senior citizens and activities, especially some wonderful folks that had different kinds of memory loss. And as a mother, as a wife, a regular person living a messy life, and doing this with all of these wonderful people, I really got to see the real concrete difference that joy made in each of those situations. Whether it was a teenager in distress trying to figure out how to do that particular day, or a senior citizen who just felt forgotten by the world, or a young person with anorexia nervosa. Just pumping joy into those situations made such a difference in the outcome and in their ability to persevere despite their difficulties, that it became this common denominator. And I'll be completely honest. So, when I got to the point where I was at the end of the third of those careers, those callings, I really didn't know what I was going to do next. I really wanted God to guide that. I was just put myself in his lap and just wanted his direction. And yet in that time, I felt a bit like a failure in the sense that, I couldn't stick a career out. I kept bumping around. I kept changing jobs. And it wasn't until actually a moment of prayer in this room, where I really just wanted God to guide this next step of my journey, that he made it really clear I was not a failure. I was following him. And joy was that ribbon that wove all of those things together. It was because of those different background pieces that he was positioning me to go out and share what I had experienced and witnessed and learned. So it was a real beautiful moment with him.
I love that personal story piece that God brought joy to you when you didn't see a way. And
Yeah.
I am also going to ask, in the situations where you said you applied joy with the teenager who couldn't make it through the day, with the elderly person who was hopeless, with all of those things that you mentioned, joy is kind of the last thing that you would think would work into that situation. How do
Mhm.
you put joy into, for example, one of the other things that you said, someone with anorexia nervosa, or a child or a teenager who's struggling with depression or anxiety? How do you make joy work with that? It seems counterintuitive that you would even introduce such a thing. And it also
Mhm.
seems like the client would be resistant to that idea in that
Mhm.
moment.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny because, our view of joy is kind of fluffy, right? We don't see it as an essential component. It doesn't make the list of water and shelter and food and, all those things that you have to have. And yet, when you don't have it, you realize just how foundational it is. And like, okay, so going back to the example of, the people with eating disorders, these folks, they were coming to me for help with peace with food. They had therapists. That was required by me. I felt that was really an important piece. And so they were working through their hurts with their therapist, and then they were coming to me to learn how to eat again and how to view food differently. But what we discovered was there was more going on than just their approach to eating. It was really about their approach to recovery in general, because the work that they had to do was hard. Oh my gosh, it was so hard. And if they were going to commit to that level of work, there had to be a really good reason waiting on the other side. And there had to be something worthwhile in the moment, because it's not just about, when we graduate, it's about, those day to day, the grind that we're in. How do we feel in those moments when we're doing the difficult thing? And so it was really interesting because I never intentionally wove joy into my nutrition counseling sessions. And yet, like, I know that God has blessed me with an abundance of it. It just comes out. It's who I am. It's part of my personality. And so our sessions were fun and uplifting, and we talked about a lot. It wasn't just about the food. And the clients who were willing to really think about what was waiting on the other side and why they were going to do all this work, when they had a really purposeful answer to that, and if joy was a part of that, they were the ones who recovered. They were the ones who had a reason to do the work. It wasn't so that they could graduate from college and get a good job. It was so that they could have fun when they go to their family Christmas. It was so that, they could go out on dates with their significant other. It was so that they could have peace at night when they sat there alone. So, but it was really about the joy. And I didn't know it at the time. It wasn't until that day I was sitting in this room praying that God made it really clear that was the common denominator in all of it. And it just didn't have a name at that time.
I saw that you got tearful when you were thinking of your clients.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of the importance of love and compassion and empathy and grace and all those pieces of God's perfect love that really are the most effective parts of therapy. And I wonder if that is also a component of the joy that you are talking about. You mentioned not a fluffy joy, not a dismissive, escapist kind of joy where we're, kind of disconnecting from reality or pretending everything's fine when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different level of joy when you're weaving the love and grace and beauty of God's presence into that. So can you define where love fits in and actually what joy is when you're talking about joy as opposed to other people's definitions?
So, in terms of the definition of joy, this is a place that I think it's important to start with everyone. And what I have found is individuals have their individual definitions. There is no agreed upon definition. In fact, in the book that I wrote, I dug into Google's definition, American Psychology Association's definition, the Bible dictionary definition, and they were all somewhat different. And I found that really interesting. So I think the main thing here is if an individual knows how they define joy, then they'll know what they're going after and when they achieve it. So in my personal definition, joy is really about resilience. It's about the hope that lasts. It's about feeling good, but it's about feeling good long term so that we have something to give to other people. It's about, having this inner sense of effervescence for life itself. It's not about the temporary circumstantial things that make us feel good. Those are things that bring happiness, and we like to feel happy, but we know that doesn't last. We know that as soon as happiness ends, we hit a bit of a decline, and then we start seeking it again. And pretty soon it's like this roller coaster ride, we're up and we're down. Joy is longer lasting than that. And so it's deeper. And when we know Jesus, and when we receive the joy that he gives us freely as a gift, we can't help but want to share that with other people. It does make our hearts sing. And, you wonder where love comes in to all of this. Oh, love and joy. You can't separate the two of them. You cannot separate them. They're like, they're woven together. And there are so many other beautiful pieces woven into this as well. The fruits of the spirit, when we think about hope, when we think about peace, when we think about goodness, like I mean, these are all things that play so nicely together for a reason. It's because the Lord gives them to us. These are gifts. When we're close to Him, when we seek Him, when we walk in His ways, when we just humbly ask Him to be with us, we receive those things. And so, yeah, you can't help but feel that love. It does bubble up, and you do want to give it away. And that's another difference too, joy and happiness. So, our culture continually pushes this message that it's all about you. It's all about you. The only thing that matters is what you want. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, it doesn't matter, right? It's all about you. Get happy. Happiness feels good for you. Well, I have a real issue with that because, if we are so focused on our own selves and our own happiness and what makes us feel good, we can completely miss the joy that comes with sharing that goodness with other people. And so, if you follow me on social media, one of the things that I say frequently, and I have a hashtag, feel good. I have it all over the place. Feel good. I want people to feel good, but not for selfish reasons, but so that they've got something to give to other people. That's the difference between joy and happiness, because joy is like a contagious, shared thing. It feels so good. You don't want to keep it to yourself. Happiness is like my personal experience. Joy is a collective, communal feeling of goodness. So maybe that will help.
I love that idea that joy is a communal experience and it's not selfish. How can people follow you on social media and connect with you online and get a copy of Messy Joy?
I would love to connect with people on social media. I make it easy. You can find me on all the different social medias under one name, and that is Joy Coach Robin. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Joy Coach Robin. And then my website is joytotheworldcoaching.com. And so if you go over to joytotheworldcoaching.com, you'll get all kinds of free things that just help you to have joy on a more regular basis. And I've just put up a 30-day Messy Joy journal. So if you'd like to get 30 days of questions to help you dig into the subject of messy joy, they're free. They're over at joytotheworldcoaching.com/messy joy questions. That is the world's longest website.
Well, thank you, Robin. I hope that you will go and connect with the world's longest website because it's worth it to connect with Robin. And of course, I also hope that you come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant. Flourish-Meant is part of the Spark Media Network and can be found on the Edify app.